What did we learn from the FTX collapse?
I'm Nate, the FitFutureMD. Upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you don't miss an upload. My goal in life is to help as many people as I can, whether it be fitness, health, mental health, financial. So don't miss an upload. I appreciate your support.
So what did we learn in the FTX collapse? Basically, influencers are just for hire, right? Like FTX came out with all this money for influencers, and the influencers just jumped on, and the more influencers they got, the more other influencers signed up, right? So, influencers saw that BlackRock was behind the company. Well, they jumped on the company too, right? So somebody sees somebody being successful some way, like they're just going to copy that success, right? They're just going to copy the way they're doing it. And you start getting $50,000 a month from a company, you start promoting it. And I definitely learned this from Robinhood, right? So everybody was promoting Robinhood back in 2020, and Robinhood went public and the owners got rich. But Robinhood is definitely not the best platform. It's definitely not, it's nice, bright, shiny object syndrome, and everybody jumped on board, but it really wasn't the best for what retail investors need, right? So, not to hate on Robinhood, but that's basically how it went, right? And FTX is the same way. Number two thing that we learned is that even big investors like BlackRock can be wrong, but BlackRock is not investing their own money, so they can take the risk on something like an FTX or in crypto and lose that money and not even feel it, right? They don't even know that they even lost the money. But that influenced retail investors, and retail investors, they're, to buy a Bitcoin at 60K, like that's a whole year's salary for most people. Like, it's very, very dangerous, to risk that much money on one asset class, let alone, something that's not regulated yet, right? So, the BlackRocks, the Vanguards, they don't know whether something's a good investment or not. They just have the capital to risk compared to a retail investor, right? The number three thing we learned from the FTX collapse is that cryptocurrency exchanges are very similar to banks in the 1920s and 30s, right? There's no regulation to stop over leveraging. So, that's basically what's happening to FTX is they leveraged their crypto. They sold, they got more loans out than the amount of money they have to cover. And when the value of your asset that you're loaning against goes down, banks call those notes. And it's basically what the whole thing that Dave Ramsey talks about with leverage, right? Like, if you have leverage and the value of your asset goes down, they're going to call those notes. And it's very similar to what happened to Grant Cardone in 2010. They started trying to call his notes on his assets because the value of the assets had decreased, and he's sitting there with equity in his assets, and the bank was trying to stay solvent. Luckily he had the money to fight against the banks, but regular retail investors, they don't have that, right? So until you get regulation on something about over leveraging will bankrupt somebody, no matter how big they are. Like, FTX had their name on stadiums and had every influencer promoting them and basically everybody on their payroll, right? And to get to that point, they over leveraged themselves. Were they were definitely over, $100 for every $1 of assets they had, right? So, that's one lesson you can learn, is that you will go bankrupt if you're over leveraged. Like, it's not just a risk profile, but when you're coming from nothing. Okay, so blockchains crashing is very similar to the internet, right? The internet companies basically all crashed, in the early 2000s. The biggest example of that is pets.com, right? Where it had this crazy evaluation and it went to zero in like less than a month, right? Well, FTX is the same way, right? It's a big company based off blockchain, and it's now worth zero, and it's going to take other companies with it that was leveraged with it. But the blockchain itself is probably going to survive and probably going to thrive in the future. And companies are going to go in, FTX is in bankruptcy, so their companies are going to go in and buy the assets of FTX for pennies on the dollar. And then those assets are going to be put into their portfolios and come out the other side, as an operational company again, right? That's kind of how the capitalist system works. The vultures come in and pick up the pieces of people that do stupid stuff. And, over leveraging is definitely stupid. So, all right, the last thing that we learned from FTX is to never have more than 5%. Never have more than 5% of your investments. Never have more than 5% of your investments into a single asset class, right? So, someone that follows that rule, crypto crashes, 95% of their portfolio is still fine, right? Even if you bought at the high of 60,000, and you drop 80% of 5%, that's really not that big of a deal in your portfolio. It's hard for, retail investors, because especially when you start learning, because you become so successful, especially if you become successful so quickly in one asset class, or that you know an asset class better than any other asset class, that you're heavy in that asset class. And people are especially heavy in real estate, and especially heavy in crypto, in the 2020, 2021, now here it is 2022, the market's down, almost 30%. You got interest rates rising, and then, all these people that are leveraged are going to start falling off, right? But if you're a sound investor and only have 5% invested in that stuff, but most regular Americans have 50% of their stuff in real estate, right? Because it's the easiest thing to get leverage for, right? All you got to do is work for 2 years and have a above 600 credit score. And with Bank of America, you don't even have to have a good credit score anymore. You just have to live in a certain area or want to buy in a certain area. So there's definitely stupidity out there in the market. Don't be the stupid person, right? 5% of your portfolio. So if your portfolio's, $10,000, only $500 would be in a certain section of that portfolio. And as you grow it over time, you readjust all the time. And even if that causes tax implications to readjust, you still do it, because it's deleveraging you, it's de-risking your portfolio, right? So this is what we learned from the FTX crash. I hope I'm helping you out, guys. If I did, leave me a like, leave me a comment down below. Like I say, make sure you hit the notification bell. I upload every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I appreciate your support. Let me know if I'm helping you, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.